I'm on mute and I talked. Oh, I was talking. Yikes. Sorry, people. So for 2 minutes and 48 seconds, you didn't hear a word I said. Wow. I cannot believe that. Well,
Okay.
life happens, right?
Yeah,
That is
it does.
exactly how it is.
Life and tech happen.
Yeah, and I have been feeling a little bit under the weather for these past few days, so
Oh
please
no.
forgive me, everyone, for this. I was like, yeah, 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 yeah. So please just give me one moment to just to let everyone know who I'm talking to. Because I really love everything about you. I don't want this to go unheard because it's so important to me. Um, as I said, as I was trying to say through the muteness, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for a long time now, just a little over a year. You are amazing. You're the founder of the Lady Rebel Club movement. You're the megaphone and spotlight holder at the Rebel World Media. You're the Leadership Academy head at your local online UK women's organization and
Mm.
resident contributor at Soullessy magazine. I love that. I love that your message is elevating and empowering other neurodiverse and disabled entrepreneurs around the world to step out of their shadows because I believe there's no shame in embracing everything about ourselves
Yeah.
because we're worthy to live a beautiful life. You're the author of multiple books, in fact, an international best-selling author. You're self-published as well, self-empowerment speaker, a self-professed rebel, and hence the name Lady Rebel, which
There's a
I
theme. There's a
absolutely
theme we're
love that.
noticing here.
Yes. And I love the fact that you're part of the Becoming Unstoppable Woman network of women, the first of a series of books, especially that we got to share in together,
Yeah.
leading the way to impacting the world, impacting women around the world to live their best lives. Like, I just really love this movement that's begun, this hashtag BAUW, as it's lovingly known,
Yes.
transforming women's lives all around the world, and also that we share this common interest in writing for the online global magazine Brains magazine, which is exclusively focusing on interviews and articles and information
Hmm.
around entrepreneurship, personal development, leadership, and lifestyle. And you truly are leading the way. In fact, you are building something so unique. I can't wait to get into it today. I really love what you're doing. I truly do.
Thank you.
I feel like that this brand that you are building is not just about yourself and your journey, but you are
Mm.
bringing as many women as you can with you, which I absolutely love. And as I said, I wish that I had it come across because I was so excited. But with that grit you have, your grace, your gratitude, your love for humans in general, you are running successful businesses. You're making this a huge global impact. And you're creating that space for women, especially like myself too, because I didn't recognize my own neurodiverse, qualities about me. I call them
Hmm.
qualities rather than
Yes.
disabilities.
Yes.
To have the confidence to share a truth, right? And I believe you're just getting started. So I just wanted
Oh, for sure.
to recognize you that way because I truly believe what you're doing is so incredible.
Oh, thank you very much. That's like, where do I go from there? It's like such a lovely introduction. That's it. Done. No, I'm just joking. But thanks very much. It's lovely. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think first of all, like you said, it's interesting, how we met in the Bow series and, and just how I think we did connect. And it's really interesting because of on the neurodiversity side, and it's a common kind of thing a lot of us talk about, that we seem to kind of attract each other, even if we don't know that we're neurodivergent or the other person's neurodivergent, but there just seems to kind of be this unseen magnetism. We do kind of cluster together and find each other. So that's always really interesting when you connect with someone and then you later find out, oh, well, hold on, I'm actually neurodivergent too. Oh, well, guess what? So am I. And then it's like, oh, yes, we have this thing in common. So yeah, so that was really wonderful, how we met and just connected more from there. And I guess, and as we've kind of said, found out that we had maybe more things in common than what we thought, and which, opened up additional conversations and things of that nature. And for
Yeah.
me, I think the work that we do is so important because I think for two reasons. One is that although we are starting to see some conversations happen in the neurodiversity space and the disability space, a lot of it's more corporate, with some big organizations. But also there's lots of like very specific, very niche groups and people that do different things. So for instance, you see maybe coaches specifically that work with ADHD, or organizations, that are just for neurodiversity, or that are just around, cancer or blood cancer or things of that nature. And the way I always like to kind of describe ourselves, and even though it doesn't sound overly glamorous, is I see really Lady Rebel Club as the dirt that helps all of these other movements and businesses and humans, behind the businesses, grow and flourish. So we're kind of like the connecting thing that ties all of these things together, because we're about, any woman or marginalized gender who has any kind of disability. There is a lot of prevalence towards, invisible disabilities, just because there's more of us out there that have those. But any disability, and any neurodiversity whatsoever. And I, like you, do not consider my neurodiversity a disability in any way. But there are definitely areas of friction, because the world isn't made for us, right? The way that humans communicate and, run the society and all the things expected, and, and all these different things don't always align necessarily with, maybe how my neurodiversity wants to kind of shine through. So sometimes you can get friction in those areas. Doesn't mean it's all our fault. The world also needs to communicate with us in better ways as well. So, but I definitely have that same philosophy, that I don't see it as a disability, but there's just those areas of friction, or sticking points, as I like to sort of call them. But yeah, so that's really where I just saw a need. And after being in business for so long, I would always kind of grow things to like a certain stage, and I could never kind of get past that. And especially when we came online to bring the programs and everything we were doing online, it really started to shine, even more. And as my health continued to deteriorate with some of the disabilities that I have, and I found out that I was neurodivergent and all these different kinds of things, I could see, right, yep. Ironically, the more chaotic things got for me, the clearer I could see that there was so many other, primarily women out there like me, who were hiding in the shadows, who felt oodles and oodles and oodles of shame, as I did. I don't want my clients to know I have a disability. I don't want my clients to know about my fibromyalgia. I don't want them to know that I'm autistic. I don't want them to know this. What are they going to think? They're going to think I'm incapable. And all of these limiting beliefs that in general society has about us. And I think, again, especially as women, we already have those extra hurdles that we have to have, and that we have to jump over, in business, whether, you're in corporate, or if you're an entrepreneur and have your own business, it's just the same. And we have these additional hurdles that we have to climb over anyway. So it's like an extra thing, that we have to say, well, yeah, not only are we a woman, but by the way, we have a disability, or we have this. So it's all these additional limiting beliefs that you stack on top. And it can make it feel like those hurdles then that we have to get over are like 10 feet high. And we can get over them, we can do it. And for me, I think the best way is to do that is to, if you have the privilege to be able to, because I also appreciate not all of us will, if we can embrace ourselves a bit more and learn how to work with ourselves, our weaknesses and our strengths within the business, that's one area, but then also letting that, shine externally as well, and not trying to hide. Because if we're so busy hiding and doing all the things, we're never going to be able to really let everything, our strengths fully show, and never be able to fill the weaknesses and the gaps that we need to fill as well in order to grow.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's so funny. So usually how I start these out is we start with some rapid fire questions, but I really actually want to dig into this more. First, I want to go back a little bit, because we're now at this place where you've really started to grow this brand, and you've started to recognize like all of the areas that you can really lean into and have impact. So let's go back just a little bit. Like, talk about, like, as I know where you're across in Belfast, which I
Yes.
love the fact that we can talk to each other. This is so great about the internet. So
yes.
Tell us a little bit about growing up where you are, especially as you then started recognizing that maybe the world outside of where your cocoon, your home, your family wasn't really as understanding about as who you are, the things about you, and how you first stepped into doing what you do, because there obviously was some transition into that.
Yes, well, I think again, especially for a lot of us who are late diagnosed neurodivergent, there's a lot of us have a very similar story. We didn't feel like we really fit in. There was always this kind of thing we could never put our finger on. And it's ironic for me. And again, this is very common, especially around in the autistic and ADHD community with women, is that you can actually look at a timeline literally from like high school up to like my, sort of mid 20s, early 20s when I met my husband, of through every kind of group of friends slash boyfriend, my look completely would change depending on who that individual was. So my hair, the music, the dressings, and it wasn't intentional, but that was just, my masking was so strong to try and fit in, that yes, I just would kind of, take on these kind of, this presence that they would have so that I fit into their role, so to say. So it was really chaotic, and I never really had a strong sense of identity growing up. I didn't really know kind of who I was. There was always somebody else that defined who I was for that particular reason. Now, I was very healthy as a child as far as like the other disabilities and things go, except for on the mental health side. Physically, I was always very healthy. But again, I had a very traumatic childhood in a few different ways. And that on top of the neurodiversity aspect, yeah, I had suffered from really severe anxiety disorders from like the age of 6 and 7. And from then on, I was always sort of had this balancing act going on with like, PTSD and GAD and all of these other elements. So for me, that was kind of always had that mental health element that was always sort of a struggle. And we didn't really know. I mean, we knew about the mental health, with the anxiety and things, but it wasn't really as received kind of like it is now. And it was really, I was always meant to feel unintentionally, by family and friends and stuff, but that it was really like a dirty thing. It was like, we don't talk about, the anxiety disorders. We don't talk about the mental health. Everything's fine. Just smile and, be quiet and know your place. And, all of those kinds of things that I know a lot of probably people more our age, kind of went through as kids, so to say. And it was only really, it was strange here, but then when I met my husband and I came over here, and I'm originally from America, but I traveled around America a lot. Again, it was kind of one of my things, would always kind of bounce around, never really settled. And I came here, and in a really strange way, I was always drawn to kind of the Celtic area and just kind of this area of Europe and everything else. And lo and behold, I married, a man from Ireland. So it worked out really well. But yeah, I do feel strangely a bit more comfortable here. I don't know if it's just because now I've been here most of my adult life, probably as well. But also, my husband's very, he just loves me, whatever package, it is and looks like and comes out. And he's always been very, very supportive in that fashion. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it would be really strange for me, I think, to move back home. And I don't know if that could, there could be some mental elements there where, because I had so many barriers there and it wasn't always, a positive experience for me, that, yeah, I'm happy here and I'm happy to go back and visit and do all of that. But there is always that some level of apprehension whenever I go home. And I think probably a lot of that just stems, from a lot of those childhood traumas and things that I had.
Wow. So yeah, no, I love your story because I truly think that again, we all have a story. And I think a
Mm,
lot of the time people forget that there's that story, that backstory that leads you to do whatever it is that you decide, or it's at least part of the journey that, the stepping
mhm,
stones, if you will, to bring you to that. And I think we had our conversation around, my own OCD, and I recognize that sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good, but it's
mhm.
okay that it's part of my life. It's something that I hid for a long time, not even realizing that it was a part of me that I was hiding. And
Yeah.
I think with through your through what you've been doing in the brand that you're building and bringing awareness to that it allowed me to say, oh, that's okay. Like this is a part
Mhm,
of me that's okay. I think allowing ourselves to be open about our own journeys helps other
yeah.
women to feel like they're not alone. Because I think still, even today, you will have conversations with people thinking
Mhm.
that they're all alone,
Oh,
that
definitely.
nobody gets them and they don't understand them, but they've just not really, I guess, experienced being in the same room with someone who, whether or not they've had the same experience, will at least give them, the I guess the grace to say,
Mm,
I get this is what you've gone through and
mhm.
I see you. I think that's is just really being seen for who you are, not the things that are about you that might be different from other people.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I think it's looking, and again, for me, because I'm such a mixed mash of different things, if you look at everything that's going on with me, I've got obviously stuff with anxiety still, it's always there. It never really completely goes away. You're always kind of aware of it. I've got blood cancer, I have fibromyalgia, I have paraneoplastic syndrome, seizures, as well as obviously being autistic and ADHD. And there's a whole mix of things. And one thing doesn't happen within me, or even if I go to an event or I do something that I want to do, but I push myself, or it's maybe been, a bit of a stressful event, or there was maybe a bit of apprehension around whatever, or even if it's completely positive, but I've maybe, done too much because we were having fun, and all this kind of stuff. One thing doesn't just happen on its own. And again, that's kind of where I could see where we needed that kind of space to have that understanding where, again, there's lots of really fantastic things that are very, very specific. But you might not feel too comfortable. So say, for instance, I'm in like 2 or 3 groups for around, entrepreneurs who are neurodivergent. And it's a fantastic space. And there's lots of great conversations that go on around that. But it's not a space where I feel comfortable talking about, how my blood cancer and my neurodiversity intertwine and interact, and how one impacts the other, because that just isn't that container, right? But all of those things interact, within our container of self. So I felt, again, we needed that kind of bigger space where we could talk about all of the things and look at us as whole people, rather than, just the one element or one trait of us. And I didn't really see a lot of that out there, at that time. And as you know, it was really kind of, I had the idea for the name for Lady Rebel Club maybe 3 years ago. I didn't know what it was going to be. I just said, oh, this is a great name. I need to trademark it because I'm going to do something with it. And I knew I wanted to do something for humans like me, but I didn't know what at all that was going to be. And then I spent a couple of years trying to figure out kind of, how I work best in the business, and, peak performance, and all these different kinds of things like that, which was really, really helpful. And it was really off the back of my husband's stroke, because we had the consultancy together, that I was kind of left juggling again. It was like the utter chaos, because he had a stroke 2 months after that. I got my diagnosis of blood cancer, and 2 months after that, COVID hit. So during that whole period, as I was going through treatment, and, my son was struggling with some mental health issues and all these kinds of things as well, the more chaotic my life got, the clearer I could see that there was so many other women out there like me, especially in the entrepreneurial space, who didn't have the support, who didn't have a lot of the understanding, and who were just hiding. And that hiding was such a barrier for them, that I was finally just decided, yes, let's, rip the bandage off, and just, this isn't working. And I don't have the space, the bandwidth to try and keep hiding all of this. And it wasn't like it was completely easy, though, as far as like it just happened one day and I was like, haha, here I am, and it's fantastic. It wasn't like that. In fact, me being so open, I was discriminated against, in my opinion, against with funding bodies and things like this. They didn't understand about my disability and my neurodiversity. So there was definitely impact from it. There was certain people that I've met who I know right away, wrote me off because I've been open, about my disability and my neurodiversity. So we can't say that once you like say a hello, here I am, that everything's necessarily brilliant and rosy, because there is, stigma out there. There is biases out there. There are limiting beliefs out there. And it makes it even more important, though, I feel, for women like us who have a voice and who have the privilege to be able to use that voice, to use it, because we need to start changing the conversation. We need to help women change the conversation that goes on in here, so that we can all better change the external conversation that's going on out there.
No, I love that. And I think too is sometimes when someone else goes first, it gives someone else the courage that to maybe have gone first for the very first time in their life, to actually speak their truth out loud, because
Yeah.
there can be a lot of shame that goes along with that, because you think, well, I'm flawed, and like everyone else is better than I am. Again, hiding this thing about just being OCD, and having like this thing that happens to me sometimes when I get stressed, and I know that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
But not wanting to share that with anyone, because then people would think I was flawed. And it's like, yeah, no, that's a part of who I am, but it doesn't define the person that I
Yeah.
am. And I think that's what I love about about what you're doing. So tell us about like what Lady Rebel Club, like where you see this going, because I know you're like really branching out and doing a lot with it.
Complete world domination, nothing
Yes.
less. Less. We actually, oh my goodness, it's crazy, really. I shouldn't say crazy, wild is kind of a better term. It's wild, really, what's been happening. And just because it's really just been this year since March, that we really kind of said, right, we know what this, container is going to look like initially. We know what we want this to be about. And we were kind of dabbling with bits and pieces before, but it's really only been, the past like 9 months roughly. We have another thing that we could see outside of the movement is the whole side with the media. And again, it's all around kind of the elevation side, but we can really see that there isn't a lot of media out there that's just for us. I see us often used as like a token, kind of, whether it's an award ceremony, whether it's interviews. There's like always the most inspiring, and the most inspiring is always the person like who's the disability or the neurodiversity. that's the kind of the category that we get. Where it's like, well, why can't we just be the best business of the year 2023? Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. It's like we always get kind of pegged in a certain way. That, and I think a combination of either a lot of us are completely portrayed as superhuman. And although I do feel like some of the traits that I have, like my grit, for instance, my grit is I have more grit than anyone that I personally know, and stamina. And for me, I feel that is almost a superpower, right? But it's that one trait. It's not my whole neurodiversity, right? It's not my whole aspect. Whereas I think it often our disabilities and stuff were portrayed as everything is superhuman. So if you can imagine you're somebody who's maybe struggling with that and you're reading an article or an interview with someone and they don't show the flip side, they don't talk about the flip side. All they're talking about is how brilliant it is, to have this dyslexic thinking or to have this or to have that and how it presents. But they're not looking at it in real world. And instead it's like, well, my house is perfect and my kids are always, their uniforms are ironed. And I'm like, my kids are running out of the door with an apple in their pocket and their uniforms haven't been ironed in 6 months. There's like a lot of stuff that's not perfect here. And I think it's that realness, that we're not superhuman all the time. Everything's not perfect, about, having whatever this is. But on the flip side, we're not puppies that sometimes we get our heads pat going, oh, go girl, aren't you wonderful,
Yeah.
But in a very sort of condescending kind of way. So we're not sob stories and we're not completely superhuman. And I just didn't see a lot of real, right? Because real life is often a bit of everything, isn't it? We have the drama of the highs and the lows and everything in between. So for me it was going, right, well, let's start doing that. Let's start talking about us as real humans, as real entrepreneurs, because there's a lot of us who are, kick-ass business owners as well. But why can't we just portray to that? Why does it always have to be framed in the framework of, however, this person has this, it's like, well, just talk about me as a human. It doesn't have to always be, have this additional frame around it. So I just wanted us to have our own platforms, magazine, podcast. In fact, we're actually revamping everything because of some partnerships and things like this that we've put in place, which is fantastic. And we've got obviously the book, which the first one was just out in October, Rebel with a Cause, which has gone down a storm and we've had so much interest, which has been fantastic from it. And I know even within itself, there's been, some of the authors have really broken through barriers and are having conversations now about neurodiversity, for instance, in countries that didn't talk about it. That was it, especially with women. So it's been really breaking some serious ground, which is phenomenal. But yeah, it's just having these additional platforms that really see us as humans so that other individuals out there, especially again, women and other marginalized genders, can look at real. I don't necessarily mean role models like, hi, we're superior in any way, but they can look at other people like them doing some great things, but not everything being perfect, and looking at, some of the real journeys that we've had to go on and some of the real things that we still struggle with, and if anyone has followed any of my Facebook or social or anything, they know that I'm very real about stuff and I don't sugarcoat. I don't really sugarcoat anything, which sometimes isn't always great either. But that's the way I am, right? So I think it's having that realness and bringing that wholeness. And we've got the media side. We're now also publishing for other people, because on the back of our book, we actually had several people come to us saying, can you help us within our community? So again, we saw a space for that, for specifically people in our community to help them to publish and get their own stories, even their own movements and things like that. And we have a few clients right now that we're working with, including our first children's book that we launched called
Yes,
Adeline
congrats.
Plays Many Ways. Yeah, so it's all about chronic, like hidden pain and chronic pain and things of that. And Erica, the author, Erica Sneath, is fantastic and struggles with chronic pain and whatnot. So we thought this was a fantastic book, and for us, it's always too, everything with us that we do with our community is everything, every little thing that we do, it has to be win-win-win. It has to be a win for all of us. And so some of the work that we're doing with the other publishers has allowed us to, for instance, to do the scholarship with Erica. So all the work that we're doing with her is covered under our First Rebel Heart Publishing Scholarship. So again, it's all about giving back to the community and developing frameworks like that. And we have lots of things coming. We have a merchandise shop that's launching at the end of the year. Well, hopefully in the next week or so, but definitely right before Christmas at the very latest. So that's going to have some interesting things. We have some people we're collaborating with in fashion. We have things coming up for chapters that are going to be launching. We have a really cool event. I don't have the set date yet, but it's going to be hopefully sometime in October. It's going to be kind of a hybrid event that we're going to be running with the metaverse and real world and putting together some phenomenal things there. And we have, just some great partners that are coming on that really believe in what we're doing, really believe in the spirit of collaboration and partnership. And that's really how, I spent the past 6 to 9 months doing nothing except planning, and working out, and obviously, doing some of the basic business stuff that we have to do, but really focusing on relationships and building relationships with like-minded people who see the same vision, that we have. And that's now starting to really pay off for us, which is brilliant. And our community, of course.
No, yeah, I love that. And I think what I love too is that you brought the awareness around, like, it's not about me and with all of the stuff that's happening to
Mm,
me personally that's allowed me to have success in my business. It's my hard work, my grit, my
mm,
grace, my going, my planning, my partnering, my doing my due diligence, looking for the ways to make it work. What problem can I solve? What
yeah.
community can I support? It has nothing to do with all of those things. Yes, those things are great because it helps you to understand when you have other people in the same space as you, but it
Mm,
doesn't mean that's where you're leading from. And I think when you look at the real world, like you said, the realness is not about like seeing someone who is, looking at all of those things that are happening. Does that mean that only those type of people can have success? No.
mhm,
Look at the behind activities. Look at what this person does as a human being. Forget about all of the other things that you want to put
yeah.
as labels. Look at the hard work that they're putting into it. It's not necessarily hard work where there's no results. It's working
Yeah.
smarter, using your time wisely,
Yeah, you
going
have
in,
to
going
find.
after and
Well,
going after those things.
that's part of it, definitely. And that's why I would stress to people, because I went from working, I mean, I would have done 12-hour days. My laptop was constantly attached to me. I was beyond burnt out. And I was, although we were doing great work with our clients that we had, I was happy kind of going, right, well, here's the clients that we have. We always had, they were kind of long-term clients. We only work with usually, a few people, maybe 6 or 7 at the most throughout the year. It was brilliant from that. I didn't want to really necessarily grow too much. I was like, no, this is happy. We're keeping things ticking over. We can manage it. But I couldn't cope, on the flip side, trying to do all the work and everything else. And like I said, it was constantly, the laptop was constantly attached. And even when we decided to try and bring things online before my husband's stroke, that year within that space where we were doing some testing and doing some different things, it was horrible. It was a complete disaster. It was a nightmare. I struggled so much. It took me a year to get comfortable with doing lives. And that was just one of my things. And I said, this is what I want to do. I want to have a lot of live video in my strategy. And it took me ages, to sort of be able to sort of do that with any kind of level of comfort. And it wasn't all about taking the easy way. I certainly wasn't sitting around, in my bathtub going, hi, I've made one social post today and that's all I have to do, kind of BS, right? That sometimes we
Hmm.
hear.
Hmm.
My $1 million framework, come and get it now for, $2.99. But
Hmm.
yeah, but no, it does take hard work, and I think any business to some degree, you have to put hard work, but there is definitely ways we can work smarter. And I had to learn ways for me that I, worked smarter, and things that I had to learn about myself, and, what times of the days are best for me. How long does it take me to recover? If I push myself, what kind of, day do I need to set up afterwards? For instance, with a book launch, I knew it was going to take me like a few days afterwards, just because emotionally I was so like, I couldn't even talk. I don't even think I could put it into words, like just how my husband was just looking at me going, you don't seem overly excited. You just look like freaked out. And I was just like, because I was just overloaded completely, at that stage. Physically as well, because, there was obviously a lot of work leading up to that, but then just emotionally at the launch. And it took me a few days, and I knew, after like a day or so after the main launch, I was going, right, I'm going to collapse here for a few days. And I just had to build that into my schedule and not beat myself up. And again, another important thing, when we know ourselves really well, before I would have beat myself up going, why am I like this? Why do I have to take time off? I can't be sick right now. I have to do this. I have to do that. Whereas now I go, guess what? Things happen. Life happens. I have treatments. I have this. I have that. I might go and do this thing, and it's going to impact me. And no, I can't meet with you 3 days after that, because I know I'm going to be feeling like crap. Let's make it, 5 days afterwards or something like that. So I've gotten better. I still need to improve some, but I have gotten better with boundaries and even things like that to protect certain aspects of my schedule and my time and my energy, because I have to, because otherwise I know I won't be able to do the main things that I want to do otherwise. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's important. You recognize that self-care is really important. It is really one of the things that I swear by, is how I start my day. Because if I don't set myself up so that I can be focused and committed and intentional, just by like filling my cup, as I call it, then I'm just no good to myself, and
Yeah.
then no good to anyone else. So I love that you brought that awareness, especially when you have a big launch. That's a huge deal. You got your first book
Mhm.
out, and that's it's not even so much that maybe the work leading up to it, but it's you have this emotional high, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I can catch my breath now. I need to
Yeah.
like take a minute. So I love that. So is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, like what's happening that, that they can maybe get involved with, maybe reach out to you? Are you looking for people for any specific thing, or is this something you want to like maybe think about and maybe post in the group to let the ladies know of any opportunities that are coming up that you might be interested in having conversations?
Yeah, well, I would just say, if you have any disability at all, or if you are neurodivergent and you want to just, and you're feeling a bit uncomfortable, or you just are kind of like, I don't really know what to do with this, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to have a chat with you. I don't have all the answers, but I'm happy to have a chat with you. Or, Leslie understands a lot. I'm sure she can have a chat with you as well. Or, somebody else in our community, if you wanted to talk with somebody who, sometimes you need to talk with somebody who also doesn't really know you that well, because you just need that, right? This is a
Mhm.
safe space. They don't really know me. I can blurt stuff out, kind of space. So feel free to reach out, and Leslie and I can, organize something for you. Also with us, if you haven't gotten our book at Amazon, please do support the movement, support the cause. But likewise, if you would like to be an author in one of our other upcoming books, there's another one coming out in April, volume 2. We also have special editions planned. Or if you have an idea, again, if you're within our space and you want to write for us, we're always looking at collaborating with people to do some different columns, be on the podcast, possibly even, be an author in one of our books or something of that nature, or do your own book with us, then definitely reach out. We'd be happy to have a chat with you.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll make sure that I link all of Jennifer's links to where
500
you can
million.
find her, and how you can get in touch with her to this video. I'm actually going to make sure that I trim out the very first big part of the video too before I link it to the group. Even though it is being recorded within the group, I'm going to make sure that I link it with just that little less. Right. So you don't have to be sitting there for 2 minutes and 41 seconds, something like that, of dead space. But so thank
And
you.
it was probably like the most brilliant intro ever as
Um,
well,
it
wasn't it?
was, it
Yes.
was,
As
it
is
was,
always the way.
it
Well,
was.
listen, thanks very much. I just want to thank you as well, Leslie, for having me, and and have letting me be part of your group, first of all, but also inviting me to come in and have a chat with you, because I just think you're lovely, and yeah, so thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. So don't go away. Ladies, thank you so much for tuning in for another showcase episode with this beautiful Miss Jennifer Cairns. I hope that you got some value out of just hearing her speak about her life story. And if you feel like you can relate, and then especially in the neurodiverse world, then definitely you are in the right space and reach out to her. But I'll make sure that I link everything with the video later, whether it's today or first thing tomorrow. Uh, we are going to have one more showcase interview to round out the year, which will be on December 15th with Caitlin Kresmer, who is a master body life coach. So it's going to be
Ooh, nice.
interesting to have that. Yes, it's going to be really good. Thank you again, Jennifer. Thank you again,
Thank you.
ladies. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.